I now want to look at solving things using the method of completing the square. So let's look at how to solve these types of equations using this method of completing the square. My first step is to get the constant on one side, so I should have all the x's on one side of the equation and all the constants on the other. I then want to divide everything by a, this coefficient of x squared. This is going to make sure the coefficient of x squared is just a 1. The next thing I'm going to do is look at the number in front of x, and then I'm going to half that number and then square the result. I'm then going to take that number I just found, add it to both sides, and factor, and then I should be able to solve. So let's look at some examples. X squared plus 12x minus 4 equal to 0. We start by wanting to move our constants over, so I'll add 4 to both sides. I now have x squared plus 12x equal to 4. There's no coefficient in front of x squared, so I don't have to divide by anything. I'm now going to consider the number in front of x. So over on the side, the first step is to cut this number in half. Half of 12 is 6. And then we square that. Squaring 6 is 36. And I want to add this number to both sides. So I have x squared plus 12x plus 36 equal to 4 plus 36. We then factor. This left-hand side factors into x plus 6 squared. The right-hand side is 40. Now that the left-hand side is a square, I can take the square root of both sides. But when I do, I have to take plus or minus the square root. Finally, I can subtract 6, and I have x is negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 40. And if you want to, you might be able to recognize that root 40 is the same thing as 2 root 10. So either one of these answers. I now have 2x squared minus 10x plus 3 equal to 0. Once again, get my constants on the other side. So 2x squared minus 10x equal to minus 3. We also need to divide everything by a, the number in front of x squared. That leaves me with x squared minus 5x equal to minus 3 halves. We then look at this number in front of x. It's negative 5. We need to cut that number in half. That's just going to be negative 5 over 2. And then square it. That gives me 25 over 4. And this is what we need to add to both sides. So I have x squared minus 5x plus 25 over 4 is equal to minus 3 over 2 plus 25 over 4. When I factor this left-hand side, it factors into x minus 5 halves squared. The right-hand side, if I combine these fractions, I get 19 over 4. If we go down a little bit, I can take the square root of both sides. So I have x minus 5 over 2 equal to plus or minus the square root of 19 over 4. We might not know the square root of 19, but we do know the square root of 4 is 2, so this is the same thing as plus or minus the square root of 19 all over 2. And from there I can add 5 halves to both sides, and I get 5 over 2 plus or minus the square root of 19 over 2.